The best memories of my childhood are tied to a little coastal town called San Leon, where for generations my family has owned property on Galveston Bay along the Texas coast. We always just called it the Bay. My great-grandfather and grandfather bought several acres of waterfront land here in the 1920s, and each built a summer home. My mom spent much of her childhood at that house, growing up fishing with my grandfather, and then later getting my father hooked on San Leon when they began courting as teenagers. Jack and Jeannie Warren married and had 8 children, and taught us all to love the Bay. As a kid during the 60s and 70s, the happiest day of the year for me was the day after school let out, when we packed up and moved to San Leon for the summer. The twin houses built by my grandfather and great-grandfather stood through all those years, a constant as my brothers and sisters and I grew up and had our own children, the 5th generation to be part of the Bay. My parents eventually inherited my grandfather's home, which we called the old house to distinguish it from newer homes that were built by some of my relatives. I carried on the tradition of bringing my own 2 daughters down to the Bay each summer to fish and swim and go tubing behind the ski boat with their many cousins. My children's favorite holiday isn't Halloween or Christmas, it's the 4th of July. We made it through a lot of storms during all those years. We rebuilt many a pier, but the old house stood through it all. Finally, though, it just got too old and weather-beaten, and it had to be torn down last winter. My mom says it must have been the spirit of that old house protecting us all these years from heavy damage from a major hurricane. With the old house gone, on September 13th, Hurricane Ike came barreling straight at us. It destroyed hundreds of homes on the San Leon Peninsula, including several owned by my relatives. It leveled my great-grandfather's house and destroyed my aunt's home next door. A few years ago, my mother gave me one of her waterfront lots at the Bay because she knew I wanted to build my own home there. My husband is an architect. He designed a bay house for us, and we were just getting ready to send out bids when Ike struck. As crazy as it seems to most people, we're not going to let Ike scare us off. We went down to the Bay 3 weeks after the storm to see the damage for ourselves and to meet with a builder to talk about starting construction. We're going to build the house up 12 feet high on piers and make it as strong as we can, but we know the risks. We know another storm could come along and wash it all away. It's worth it to us, though. The best memories of my life are tied to this place, and I want my children and grandchildren to have the same life-shaping experiences here. Along with our neighbors, we started the slow process of rebuilding, working as a family to clear some of the rocks and debris that had washed up on our land. And before we left to drive back home, we stopped for a minute to look out over the Bay with its rippling waves. As our builder told us, we've still got our view. This is Susan Warren for the Wall Street Journal.